Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
It is episode 100 of the Say Hey podcast. I am Doug Hayes. It is April 19th, 2023. Rob, 100 episodes, my man. We made it.
100 episodes. Wow. It just seems like yesterday that we were talking about how Joe McCarthy was going to be starting in right field on opening day for the 2020 Giants, and here we are with God knows who played right field today, but that's all right. But yeah, dude, this has been quite a ride. I think when we started, man, I didn't think we'd get past like 20 episodes. I thought we'd say, oh, fuck, this is stupid, and we'd leave. But
you have little faith.
Yeah, but no, this has been awesome, man, and kind of a weird timing since we haven't recorded since the season started. So
yeah.
So 99 and 100 have been way off. A lot's happened.
Yeah, we wanted to give it a couple weeks to kind of let games be played so we can kind of, have a fair assessment, even though we're barely into the season. But yeah, man, 100 episodes, crazy, because I remember when we started, it was July of 2020, like COVID was full on going. We started the podcast like right when the season started of the 60 game season. And yeah, it was like late July. And I remember, we were waiting for our house to be built. And so I was like living with my parents trying to save money at the time and freaking like doing the show in, my dad's office. And, I was trying to learn like how to do the video and stuff. Like, and this was like after, I left Kang's Cast. And that was going well, and it's still going well, and that's part of the Believe Network. Go listen to Kang's Cast, especially right now, because our Sacramento Kangs, baby, up 2-0 on the Golden State Warriors. Probably just lost some followers because most of them are Warrior fans. That's okay. Go Kangs. Anyways, yeah. So I remember we just did it. We're kind of like, hey, we love our Giants. Like Rob and I have been best friends for going on 28 years now, and it's like, let's just do a podcast together. And dude, here we are, like 100 episodes in, and we'll kind of talk about, when we started to now, but it's crazy, man. And I feel like we probably should have been there sooner, and we could have been, but life's crazy, and we're two busy dudes, and
yes.
But yeah, man, it's been a hell of a fun ride, and looking forward to the next 100, my friend.
Oh hell yeah, baby, hell yeah. Going for that 200. I cannot wait in 2026 when it happens.
That's probably when it's gonna happen.
I know. I'm not playing. It's true.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it's like I said. This is how tired I am. I'm wanting to put up little cute banners here. But yeah, dude. Hey, it's been fun. So we're gonna do a couple fun things. Though we'll talk some Giants baseball towards the end, of course. But Rob, have you been thinking about this since I said think about your favorite Say Hey podcast episode out of the 100?
Yeah, I thought of a lot, and I kept coming back to all the episodes where we did our lists and start ranking stuff, and we've had a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
But I think when we did our top 10 Giants from the I think our line was 2000 on.
Yeah, the new ballpark on.
That was our rule or something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a really fun one. Our top 10 Giants killers from over the years, like that.
That was fun too.
That was fun. I'm not sure if we had Max Muncy on that list. I think we did. If he's not, he's on it now.
He was honorable mention.
Yeah. He's on it. He's top 5 now. But yeah, I mean, that was fun. I mean, all of our episodes where we've had, Jeff Young on and Kevin Cunningham, like the great episodes when having
Yeah.
Brooks and Steven and the guys on. I love when we have somebody else on, because it just gives another perspective and it just kind of gets the conversation going, a lot of different ways, get more perspectives. But yeah, I gotta say, yeah, all of our episodes where we were ranking stuff, those are my favorites for sure.
I might have to agree with you. I totally agree. Like our list episodes they're a lot of fun because we kind of get to just put our own personal twists into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, having guests on, a lot of fun. I mean, we've had Bill Lasky on, Jeff Young, of course. We've had, like you said, Brooks and Steven and Eric and the guys, and those are always fun because we can kind of just shoot the shit and talk baseball and still have a productive episode. But man, I think I might agree with you. When we did the top 10 Giants since the new millennium began, that was a lot of fun. And we got, because, in the year 2000, obviously, Pac Bell Park opened up. Rob was 11 that year. I was turning 10. And so, we were kind of like at that age where we can really remember things well in regard to like watching the games, going to games. We went to a lot of games during that time. Shout out Auntie Steph.
Yes. And she's listening.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and you know what? We should shout out Aunt Steph because she is a big reason for our Giants fandom, because even before Pac Bell Park, she took us to I at least went to probably like a dozen games when we were little kids going to Candlestick. So Auntie, we love you. Thank you for contributing to our Giants fandom and being a great supporter of the Say Hey podcast. We love you. And but yeah, I mean, I'll let you go because I know you want to say something. But yeah, man, freaking the top 10 Giants that we did from 2000 on was a lot of fun, and I'm pretty sure we both had the number one, the same guy, and it was Brandon Belt. So.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
actually, what I was thinking was, like one of these days we need to do an episode where we do like a top 10 list of like just random like breakout performances by like random Giants over the years, like Fred Lewis hit the cycle on Mother's Day and
like individual games and stuff.
Just like
yeah.
Just
that's
like,
an all timer.
Just flash
Pablo 3-run homer day in Coors, like back in 2011 or something like that.
Yeah, when I remember when Brian Dallimore got called up finally when he was like 33 and he hit like 2 home runs in his first game. Then he never did anything again after that. Like, yeah. I mean, it's stuff from like 2009. Like that's
a great idea.
But yeah, I was thinking, episodes like that, those would be fun to do. But yeah, again, shout out to Aunt Steph for sure, because all the years, she checked me out of school to go to games and, got to play hooky to go watch Tony Gwynn hit, at Candlestick, and all the great players that we got to see over the years, those great Braves teams that we got to go see. Yeah, shout out Aunt Steph. Thank you for everything.
Tell the Tony Gwynn story, because I know we have the same story.
All right, so
was it 98?
Yeah. The Giants were pretty good that year. They were like a wild card like contender, or did they win the West that year?
I think it was the year after Brian Johnson ended the Dodgers' hopes. I think it was 98.
Yeah,
there was towards the end of Tony Gwynn's career.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we were there during BP, and
yes.
Tony Gwynn hit a ball into the stands
to left field. We were in the left field bleachers at Candlestick, and mind you, remember, of course, Tony Gwynn was not a huge home run hitter, right. But he went yard in BP that one day, and there was like nobody around us. Go ahead.
And I honestly, I don't remember who got it, me or you, but
we got there like same time.
But we ended up like splitting that ball because there was like no way like one of us was going home without it.
Like, we'll co-share it.
And for like at least a good 2-3 years, like we would rotate getting to have that ball like in our room on display. And fuck, I wish I knew where that ball was at now. But
I mean, Tony Gwynn, I mean, that we're talking. I think you agree with me on this. Like, best pure hitter, even in our lifetime. Of course, we're really young, but just old enough to really appreciate like how good Tony Gwynn was. He was such a good hitter, man.
Yeah,
good dude too.
But yeah, so many memories over the years that Candlestick and Pac Bell, SBC, AT&T, Oracle, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But yeah, we go way back with a lot of Giants baseball. So getting to do all these episodes, man, and kind of having our own little spin on it has been a lot of fun.
So before we start talking Giants, because we will talk Giants, of course, but I kind of wanted to talk about our first episode compared to now. And I kind of touched on it at the beginning. Our first episode was so quickly thrown together because, like I said, I had just left King's Cast in like mid-July, and we were recording episode 1 of Say Hey by July 30th or something like that. So it was like within a week or two. And, going through the whole approval process of getting a podcast on like Apple Podcasts and doing all that. I mean, it's not easy, but it's a process. And I remember we were just kind of, I think we were just grateful for baseball at the time, when we were recording the first episode, because, we're going into late July and, usually by like mid-January, you're like, we're itching for spring training. And so, spring training obviously started that year, but it got cut short. And then we didn't have a pitch of baseball again until, mid-July. I think they had like 2 weeks of spring training, and then it was boom, here's a 60-game sprint. And I feel like those first few episodes were really like holy cow, like we're in this, and the Giants were actually competitive until the last day of that season. I remember when Austin Slater, was it like a check swing or whatever to end the season, I believe, wasn't it? Or something like that?
Yeah, the Giants and their way of ending seasons with check swings.
Right?
Yeah, the last few years. But yeah, that was a really interesting year, because that was the only time in baseball history where I think a team got walked off on their home field. And
that's right, the Padres.
Yep, the Padres walked the Giants off in San Francisco.
In front of no one.
In front of nobody. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, coming from them until now, I mean, we're part of a network now, and it's awesome. Thankful for Believe and the new connections we get. And we've really, another thing that you hear us talk about all the time, Giants Chatter. I mean, in July of 2020, Giants Chatter wasn't anything. In December of 2020, we created Giants Chatter, and now we're at almost 1,200 members on Facebook. It's a Facebook group where we want, realistic takes. It's not a cheesy go hung, group. It's real fans and talking real ball, and we have good discussions on there. So go join Giants Chatter on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, going from one to now, I mean, we're on YouTube now. We're consistently doing video, and we're wherever you get your podcast. It's crazy how far we've come in less than 3 years, and in 100 episodes. So it's just been a crazy ride.
Crazy ride indeed. Doug, do you remember the opening day lineup in 2020?
I can probably, maybe not the order, but I can probably guess. I could probably guess position players fairly well. So, okay. Behind the plate was Joey Bart.
No.
Oh, no. Or was he not? Who would have been catching?
It was Tyler Heineman.
Tyler Heineman. Oh, that's right. Mr. Catcher Interference guy.
Yeah, the Blake Sable before Blake Sable.
That's right. You're right. First base, I'm assuming Belt was healthy.
No,
was it Joe McCarthy?
No, it was Pablo Sandoval.
Pablo started at first?
Yep.
I regret this. I'm not getting any of this. I know it's short Brandon Crawford.
Yes, you got that one.
Mike Yastrzemski was probably in center.
Yes, he was.
Connor Joe was in left or right?
No, you're a year late on Joe. Joe was on the 19
team
for 2 weeks.
That's how shitty this team was, dude. Was Wilmer Flores at third?
Yes.
Okay. Who's at second on this team? Give me the rest. I don't know. Guessing.
Yeah. Mauricio Dubon was at second.
Oh, duh. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex Dickerson was in left field.
That's right.
Joe McCarthy was in right field.
Okay, I knew he was in the lineup. I forgot where.
Johnny Cueto pitched.
Oh,
and
God.
Hunter Pence was the DH.
What an awful lineup. Good God.
You know what though? It's not too different from what we have right now. Let's be honest.
I know.
Let's be
We're
honest.
gonna talk about it. That's a great it's a great question. Man, that's nuts.
For the record, I didn't know. I looked it up.
No, I know. But hey, that team went 29-31 and was very much in the hunt until the last day of the regular season. So
that's right.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on episode 1 versus episode 100? And then we'll talk some ball.
Oh, God, man. I'm trying to remember what we even talked about in episode 1. But I just, like you said, I remember being so unprepared. Like, how the hell does it work? The closest thing I'd ever been to a podcast was going on King's Cast with you,
trivia episodes.
You, Eric, and Ryan go on there and bullshit, and then talking about making Lawrence Funderburk references and shit. And but kind of coming on and not knowing what we were doing compared to how we do it now, where you're hitting me up and we're talking like 4 or 5 days in advance about what we're going to talk about for each episode.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, like it was during 2020. It's like, all right, let's do this like series recap and let's talk about each game for 10 minutes specifically, and then all right, see you guys later. Yeah, and now I think it's a lot more free flow, and I think we're both a lot more comfortable and like what we're trying to get across to people. And and now we obviously have a lot of connections with guests and people who are actually want to come on. We don't have to beg people to come on now, which is great. And so just God, it's episode 1 during COVID. God damn it! It seems like so freaking long ago.
Because your point though of like conversing with each other, because like I said earlier, we've been best friends for almost 30 years, and having a conversation about anything. I mean, 85% of what we talk about is freaking sports anyways, but that's just that's just our lives. But coming on and having it organized, and I think from the get-go, like we were able to transition from like, hey, we're bros to being able to talk about baseball in an organized way. I think within the first couple episodes we kind of got it going, and it's just like now it's just like second nature. It's whatever. So that's a good point though.
It's real easy, and God, that it really did kind of get us through COVID a lot easier, because that shit did suck. And
the Dodgers winning the World Series,
that sucked too. But having to wait for July for baseball to start was
tough.
God, that sucked.
We needed it. Yeah.
What a horrible time.
So you kind of touched on what we were going to talk about next, and this was your idea, and I thought it was a great idea. We talked about the opening day lineup that we probably discussed in episode 1, and how almost irrelevant that roster sounds, and comparing it to now, where at the time we were one full season into the Farhan Zaidi regime.
Yeah.
And 2019, the team wasn't great. They had a great run in the summer, and it was kind of like, because their July was fun. I remember that they went on a little streak and kind of hung around, and they ended up holding on to Madison Bumgarner, which, in the grand scheme of things, which was fine. And it was Bruce Bochy's last season, and then 2020 comes along, and it was a weird year for every baseball team, of course. But it was weird. I mean, the roster was different. It was not your typical Giants one. They brought back, Pence and Sandoval was still there, and Crawford was starting to show signs. Buster Posey, took the year off. Johnny Cueto was the ace of the staff. And we look forward.
Jeff Samardzija still on the team.
Jeff Samardzija was in the last year of his awful contract. And I mean, Tyler Anderson was getting starts. Logan Webb was like a huge like wild card. Nobody knew what he was gonna, give us yet. And then fast forward to now, where during that time, you have a 107 win season in 2021, and which I remember multiple times, like throughout last season, I would say it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. It's how it was struck. Well, no, 2021 was a fluke. And again, if you're new to this show, like we admit when we're wrong, and it's been a huge roller coaster, I would say, during our time of the Say Hey podcast from episode 1 to now 100. I mean, we've gone from a weird year where the Giants weren't great, but almost got in the playoffs to best record in baseball and losing in the NLDS to your rivals. And then last year falling way back down to earth and they're 500. And then, we're a couple weeks in the season now. And even though they won today, they've struggled. Talk about still towards the beginning of the Zaidi regime till now, and I know you're going to talk Farhan tonight. I just know it. But when we started to where we're at now, how you feeling about the direction of this team?
Unfortunately, let's go back to 2020 real quick. You can't really judge that team really at all going into that season. And we knew that. I mean, basically, I think I made a lot of jokes that year about how they didn't actually sign anybody for the bullpen that year. All they did was call up the River Cats. That was all they did. Guys like Andrew Suarez, Sam Selman, Wandy Peralta, Connor Menez, Trevor Gott, Sam Coonrod, Sean Anderson. Like, that was the bullpen that year. It was just
Trevor
guys.
Gott.
It was just guys in the system, and that they just said, screw it, let's go. It's the COVID year. We're not going to spend money on a bullpen, and they didn't. So, but taking what they did then, bring it, and also guys like Drew Smiley and Joey Ricard, just a bunch of random dudes coming through on that 2020 team. I think we didn't realize it then, but that was what the direction was going to be. And I don't know if that was their intention, but in 2021, when Buster Posey came back and Brandon Crawford had a great year, had a breakout year, and Brandon Belt stayed relatively healthy, almost got to 30 home runs.
Smoke and mirrors.
I think but aside from those three guys right there, and like Kevin Gossman, the rest of the team were either young dudes or guys that they just got off the scrap heap. And the Wilmer Floreses of the world. It was a team of Wilmer Floreses with Belt, Crawford, and Posey.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, since they won 107 games, I think from ownership standpoint, it clicked in their minds that, oh my God, we can win without spending money.
Yeah.
And it's like that 2021 season. It set them back, more than it helped them in the long run. Because last year, basically they ran it back minus Buster Posey.
Yeah.
He retires. Whatever. But Brandon Belt obviously doesn't stay healthy. Crawford regresses back to kind of what he's been his whole career, just a guy who hits around 230, 240, he does what he can, but people, he almost won the MVP in 2021. He was that good.
Finished 4th in the NL that year.
Yeah. So it's just, but to answer your question about the direction of the team, I honestly, I don't know what the direction is. And that's what's so frustrating right now as a fan, because I feel like they're doing exactly what they did when they started, and it's very frustrating because outside of 2021, which Wall admit now that was a fluke and then some, they're just kind of stuck in neutral, and I don't think they really know what they want to do.
You make a great point though regarding 2021. Yeah, those three guys, Posey, Crawford, and Belt. Posey came back fresh, had a great year. Was this the heart and soul of that team? Crawford had an MVP type season out of kind of nowhere because the previous couple years he was starting to really regress. And then Brandon Belt finally stayed healthy, 29 home runs that year. And then the other guys, I remember we actually had an episode, I believe, or whatever. I think it was talking about the other guys. Think about like Mike Yastrzemski had a really good year that year. Lamont Wade Jr. got got brought in for Sean Anderson and hit, I think, 18 bombs that year.
Yeah.
That Austin Slater had a good year that year during times. Wilmer Flores was really good that year. And I know I'm missing another one.
Also, Evan Longoria stayed relatively healthy that year.
Yes, and he was good. He was really good up until that freak injury.
Yes.
With Crawford. But yeah, I mean, like everything went right that year. Kevin Gosman was really good. Logan Webb had his breaking out party that year.
DeSclafani was an all-star.
DeSclafani had a really good year that year. Wood was good for most of the year. Everything went right that year. Jake McGee was fantastic in the bullpen, and I was early on McGee. I'm like, I don't know how he's so good. He's nothing special to me.
Yeah, you were.
And ended up being right about one thing. Dominic Leone, Tyler Rogers was good that year, and Camilo Duvall was good when they needed him to be good late in the year, even though he was still learning, the show. So yeah, that was everything went right that year. And then you're right, they doubled down on it last year, and you're right. Let's kind of repeat what we did. And it didn't work without Posey. Crawford came back down to earth. Belt was always hurt. Gosman was gone. Carlos Rodon was cool for 1 year, but hey, he was only brought in for 1 year because that's how the Giants roll. And, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And then the bullpen was a disaster. And so now here we are on, I would say, the third full year of, we need to come up with a term for it. Like, expensive money ball, because they are spending money, but they're still being, cheap at the same time, if that makes sense. So it's like Moneyball is spending.
Yeah, they're spending money, but I don't think anybody, who really follows the team really agrees with how they're spending it.
Yeah.
Like when you're the Carlos Correa situation, that blew up in their face, and they mishandled it, very badly, in my opinion, despite all the injury concerns. On a player personnel level, they handled that very poorly with him. And
yes,
that worries me going forward. But when that contract fell through and that whole thing fell through, it was like, oh, you get $12.5 million, this year with an opt-out. You get $12.5 million this year with an opt-out. And they just started throwing money at guys like Minaya and Stripling and Conforto and Rogers, and then they did it all in like a 4-day stretch. They just started throwing just wads of cash, at these either injured or mediocre players in the league, and the way those contracts are set up, it's like, yeah, if you have a good year here, you can get the hell out of here. That doesn't inspire any fans. Or even better, if you suck, guess what? You can come back next year and we'll pay you another $12.5 million. That, I mean, the player is sitting in a wonderful spot there, but as a franchise, that's not how you inspire your fans. Yeah, if this guy kicks ass, guess what? He's out of here. So don't fucking buy his jersey.
Yeah, it's a tough sell for, the fans. And I think I never thought we'd see it. We're starting to see it already, and we'll see how it is the next few games, because I know they're back home. Although they're playing the Mets the next 4 games, and usually the Mets will draw a good crowd, so I don't know. But, we're seeing already kind of scarce crowds at Oracle Park, and we're not even into May yet. So it's hard to sell to the non-diehard fans. And we like Logan Webb, but like Logan Webb's your main piece. And then like your big offseason guy was Mitch Haniger, and he hasn't played in 1 game yet for you because guess what? He's hurt. And then Michael Conforto's been nice when he's been on the field, but he's already been hurt too, even though he had a huge 2-run homer today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Jock Peterson, like they love Mike Yastrzemski. It's like there's nothing sexy about this team, and we talked about it, even though I don't know how you feel about this because we never really talked about it after it happened, but the whole thing with Carlos Correa back in December of how he was coming and then ended up obviously not. I remember we had our episode about how this was going to affect the future. and regarding free agency and stuff. And we know the Giants were ready to pay money. They were ready to go after Judge. They were ready to pay Carlos Correa. It's not that. It's coming through and making sure that stuff happens, because that stuff affects the future. And the repercussions of the whole Carlos Correa thing, I feel like we're just kind of feeling it now. And I know you hammer home, well, with all that extra money, they just went out and gave it to Taylor Rogers and Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto and,
Ross Stripling,
and Sean Manaea, and you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's just, and it's not that they're signing these guys, like I have no problem with the player. I don't, but it's just like they want to push across that, hey, we are spending money. Look at our payroll, but look at who you're spending it on, and look at how the contract is constructed. Yeah. So you have a team full of guys that, if they have a year like Carlos Rodon did, they're not coming back next year. They're hitting the road. So even if they do hit on these signings somehow, say Michael Conforto, when his calf heals up and he's in there every day, say he does hit 25 to 30 home runs this year and has a nice year. He's not coming back next year. He's gone. Sean Manaea, if he has a great year this year,
with those two guys, and we're going to talk about the current team in just a minute, but we could have the opposite effect where these guys stay.
Yeah.
And, and I, again, if you've been listening, I wasn't crazy about the Manaea signing, but I did like the Stripling signing, and Ross Stripling has not been good at all. He's been giving up a lot of home runs. He's been primarily used out of the bullpen. It sounds like that's what he's going to be, which I wasn't anticipating that when I was singing his praises after the Giants signed him. I thought he'd be a mainstay in the rotation, at least for the most part, even though I know he does have bullpen experience and quite a bit of it, but I thought the Giants signed him as a starter. So kind of takes out my predictions for him for the whole year, because they're using him completely different from. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, if he continues to struggle, he's absolutely sticking around for that second year.
Absolutely.
So the opposite happens as well, and then you're stuck with him. So yeah, the opt-outs in the contract structures have their pros, but they definitely have their cons as well. So
yeah. And before we move on, you talked about attendance, and it's already been kind of bad, and they've only played the Royals and the Dodgers at home. And even for those games, like it wasn't great, but you have to think though, if you're a fan, who are you going to the park to see? Besides the name on the jersey, and that only takes you so far. Like you said, like if you're a diehard fan, okay, sure, you love baseball, you're gonna go, no matter what, no matter who's out there. But if you're the casual fan, like who are you getting worked up to go see? And that's not even with just going to the game. I go through that right now when I'm recapping games. I don't look forward to anybody's at bat on the whole roster. Most of the time, it's Peterson's been been out, Conforto's been out, whatever. Haniger's been out. Okay, that could change. This could all change, but pretty much through 17 games, it's been the same 9 guys up and down the lineup. And yesterday in particular, and this really struck me because, this was Monday. I take it back. They're facing a lefty. They have Darren Ruff hitting third. And not just that. And as we all know, Darren Ruff was DFA'd by the Mets outright, released. Late in the game, when the Marlins went to a righty, and this is in the 3-hole, mind you, it's still in the 3-hole, they pinch hit Darren Ruff and put in Matt Beatty to pinch it for him, who's
no longer with the team,
who was also released by a major league team. He was released by the Royals right before the season started. So on Monday night, a game they lost, that 3-hole consisted of a dynamic team of Darren Ruff and Matt Beatty two guys who were just cut by other major league teams, and they were hitting third for your San Francisco Giants.
Great point.
They're
It's
not
sad.
exciting.
It's sad. I will say this. The Giants have the luxury of Oracle Park. And I know, and I'm not saying like, because I've been to probably, I don't know, 75 games at Oracle Park in my life. It's the most beautiful ballpark in baseball, and I think maybe only like PNC can argue that.
Mhm.
And you know, the views draw, and regardless of who's playing. So, but then you look at across the bay where you have the shithole in the Oakland Coliseum, and I'm not comparing the teams, even though the style of how they're put together, maybe there's some similarities. I won't go into that, but the Giants are better in the A's. Like there's no doubt about that currently.
Yeah.
But you know, if the Giants roster was the A's playing in Oakland, would that team have better attendance than the current Oakland Athletics, or would it be what the A's get now?
Maybe what they get now.
Couple thousand,
3,000, 4,000. I'm telling you, Doug. I think the
A's have Tony Kemp.
I really think the majesty of that ballpark and the feel of it, I think it's starting to wear off a little bit. I mean, yes, it's better than the Coliseum, duh. But like, seriously, the Giants team hashtag this year should have been Giants baseball, because what are you gonna do? Go watch the A's? That should have been their tag.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, nothing like it. You'll get nothing like it. But yeah, shout out Judge Smails. But seriously, I feel like ownership in those guys. And again, I don't blame the players for the most part, because they're doing their best. They are.
It's not a lot of talent.
They're not a lot of talent. They're doing their best, and a lot of them are getting put in positions where they're not used to and they're not comfortable with. But even to a point, I don't blame Gabe Kapler, because I think half the time he's being told what to do. And look at his roster. I mean, yeah, he's not.
Do you think he gets overly criticized? I agree with you.
Because look at the team and what's he supposed to do for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he lacks critical in-game thinking at times.
Especially with the bullpen.
Especially with the bullpen, more than most people.
Yes.
Most managers, but still, look at the roster. But I think ownership is just way, 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 way too comfortable with what they have in the Bay Area right now.
They're making a lot of money still,
and they have no competition.
How much did they make last year in revenue?
72.2 million profit.
And that means what you're putting in the pocket.
Right. The Giants were second on the highest profit list. The Oakland A's, number 5 at 62 million.
And look what they're doing. Kind of similar.
Doing. It's very sad.
I mean, so, we were obviously talking a lot about the current team. So let's just really focus on the current team. They did win today. They won one game on this road trip with the lowly Detroit Tigers and the Miami Marlins, who aren't great, but were playing okay at the time. Yeah, the Giants are 6-11. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're 4 games out behind the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's very early, and I'm not even going to ask you the stupid question of, do we want to reassess? Like, I'm not reassessing yet. It's too early. It's way too early. Even though I think we were both expecting better than this, of course. I mean, I had them winning 82 games. You had them winning how many?
82 games.
82. Oh, that's right. We did pick the same.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah. So I think, and you agree with this, like once we get to like 50 games, we'll maybe have like our State of the Union episode like we do every year, and we're kind of like, okay, like this is how we're feeling. So a lot of baseball we played, but I mean, we're seeing it where, some things just aren't going to work out already, and we can see that. Like, let's start behind the dish. And we don't have to go through every guy. We can just talk about some notable pieces. Obviously, Joey Bart, last second, gets put on the IL opening day. Came back like last week. He's appeared in 8 games, has hit fairly well, but he's, he has a double and several singles. He's not hitting for power like they want him to. And you and I are Joey Bart guys. But like I want to see him continue to get more consistent playing time, but we'll see. But in lieu of that, Blake Sable, more importantly, Roberto Perez out for the year already, who they brought in. He's having like rotator cuff surgery. He was gone after like the first week. Blake Sable, who they got in the Rule 5 from Pittsburgh, who can play outfield, he can catch. He's been nothing special. No. And so, ultimately, not a ton coming from the catching position.
No.
Just not.
No. Yeah, Roberto Perez, that sucks, but hell, the guy did play baseball a year ago because he was hurt. Dudes get hurt, and they knew that when they signed him. So if they won't come out and say it, but I think they were really, really relying on him to be something, because I think it's pretty clear, Farhan and these guys, they're not big on Joey Bart. They're just not. But the fact that
whether you like it or not,
whether you like it or not, I mean, I don't agree with it, but the fact that Roberto Perez was going to be their answer behind home plate, like, that is very scary to me. He didn't play baseball a year ago. And so when something bad happens to him, once again, immediately, you cannot be surprised. And I'm big on, okay, you can't predict injuries. Like, when you predict what his team's going to do before the season starts, you can't predict injuries. But sometimes they're inevitable with guys like Brandon Belt, guys like that. But so, yeah, I mean, if that was their big plan, then they look pretty stupid right now, because now it's the Joey Bart show, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully, he starts hitting for power, and maybe we can look semi-smart. But
yeah, it's all they care about. So,
talking, rotation, we won't go through everything. I will say this: I'm really pleased with Anthony DeSclafani, and I was anticipating that he'd have a good bounce back year this year. I mean, a 1.42 ERA and 3 starts in 19 innings, struck out 16. 0 walks. Mm-hmm. He's been the best starter. He's been the best starter. Alex Cobb's been fairly good. Here's Alex Cobb. He's gonna give up hits, and he's gonna bend, but he's not gonna give up a bunch of runs. Through today's start, his 4th start, 19 1/3, a 2.79 ERA, 22 strikeouts and 3 walks. He's been good. He's going to give up hits, but, whatever, 26 hits in those 19 1/3. Then you look at the rest of the rotation, and, Alex Wood's been pretty good, but he only gives you a couple innings, and he's kind of being used how maybe we wanted him to be used last year. He's going to give you 3 or 4, doesn't want to get looked at again for a 3rd time by opponents. But, Logan Webb has not been great. He's been giving up home runs. Ross Stripling's already given up 6 home runs in 1 start and 3 relief appearances. And, overall, the rotation's been average.
It's
average.
It's been average. Alex Wood, goes on the IL this morning.
True.
That sucks. So, with all of Ross Stripling's, fuck ups early in the year, he's in the rotation now. So he'll be pitching Saturday, I believe, or Sunday, one of those days. But so we kept hearing from a lot of people, I didn't necessarily agree with this, that how deep the rotation was. Yeah, we're about to find out how deep the rotation is, because it didn't look good when it was healthy, outside of Anthony DeSclafani and I'd say half a Webb and half a Cobb. Because Cobb, like you said, he's looked pretty good, but he hasn't gone very deep into games. I think he went 5 today. I think he's only cleared 5 one time.
Yeah.
Logan Webb. I like Logan Webb. He's a good pitcher. I think hasn't hit his ceiling yet. I'm trying to convince myself of that, but I'm getting worried. But
I think I'm a little more pessimistic than you.
Right. But the fact that there were Giants fans out there, smart ones, mind you, they believed he was a true ace, and he's not. Like, he's a to me, he's a fringe 2 starter in a good starting rotation. And that's not a knock on him. He is who he is.
He's
And
good.
yeah, and we discussed this in Giants Chatter a little bit about the speculation of if the Giants did offer him an extension in the offseason and what it might have been. I don't know anything. I'm just guessing. I'm guessing he got around a 5 to 6 year extension, around 110, 120 in the offseason. And I'm guessing he turned it down. And here we are a few weeks later, or sorry, not a few months later.
Yeah.
And he accepts 5 for 90. That shocked me, but it just made me believe that he went to them and asked, "Hey,
Give me something.
I want to be extended. What does that offer still stand? Okay, well, what is it now? Okay, I'll take it."
Yeah.
And so and Jacob Junis hasn't looked very good either.
Another guy I was never high on.
Yeah. Had a nice little year last year, and those little bridge opportunities. Those weren't really piggybacks because Junis pitched in a lot of games where Brebbia would open, or somebody would open, and then he pitched the third, the fourth, and the fifth, or something like that, or maybe the sixth. And he did okay, but I mean, it's not a sustainable role.
Don't get me going on the piggyback.
Yeah, so it's just I've been disappointed with the rotation so far. And Sean Manaea, not really much of a sample yet with him. Looked good in his first start, and then Ross Stripling gave up a bunch of bombs to the Kansas City Royals. But yeah, just not good so far. Not good.
It's still very early. Numbers can definitely flatten out. But yeah, I mean, the rotation's just been average. And like I just said, the whole piggyback thing, I hate it. I want, if you signed Ross Stripling, and now we're going to, because Wood's on the IL, let him start. Let him get comfortable. Let him have a role. I feel like some of these guys may not do well. Even Sean Manaea. I'm not a huge Sean Manaea fan, but let him have a role, dude. Is he gonna be out of the pen? Is he gonna start? It kind of ties in with the platoon thing, with the everyday players, or position players, I should say, not everyday players, because it's so hard knowing, oh well, there's a lefty tomorrow, and so I'm not gonna play, and I've been hitting well lately, but because of the matchup, I'm not gonna play. It's really hard to get in a rhythm, and that happens for pitchers too.
Yeah.
And Camilo Doval is, said closer at the moment. But he's been used several times in non-save situations. And, and I know you and I have talked about this, especially, and being how can I say this right without laughing at myself? I was kind of our closer back in high school. And so I loved that role. But when I would go in a non-save situation for the close, it's not as exciting, and it's kind of hard to get up for. And I can't imagine a guy that can consistently throw 100, 101 miles an hour, in a big time. It's but you're coming in down 2 to maybe try and keep it at 2, and it's a totally different mindset. And I know these guys are professional ball players, and it shouldn't be an excuse. But I'm just trying to think well, it's probably a real feeling though. And
sure,
guys don't have set roles on this team, and it's tough.
And this is the first time I think I've ever seen this. We've seen it with position players, then the platoons, since Farhan's been here, basically. But this is the first year they've really done it with pitching, and I agree with you, man. I'm not a fan, and just a couple little things here before we move on that really disturbed me in terms of pitching. Sean Manaea. Just he signs that contract. Yeah, I think he's overpaid. Whatever, it's fine. But he's one of your offseason acquisitions. He's making pretty good money. He gets skipped the first time through the rotation because they were afraid to start him against the Chicago White Sox because they have a lot of right-handed hitters.
Righties.
How, if you're Sean Manaea, how are you supposed to take that? That team is 7-12. They suck. They're not a good team. And you're gonna skip me the first time through the rotation, dude. screw you. Like that would have been my response to that. But even worse. I'll go back to Manaya's first actual start, that Royal game, where Stripling came in and gave it up. Ross Stripling said after the game, and this bugged the crap out of me, Doug. It really did. He said he knew, like 3 days prior, that he was going to be relieving Manaya in that game. Like basically no matter what. I'm like, how could you possibly know that? You are a pitcher.
It's all planned.
Coming in relief. How could you possibly know that? And that just, I mean, I was already in a bad mood because, he gave up the game and a bunch of homers to Salvador Perez and shit. I was already mad. But when I heard that, I'm like, these fools really sit back and simulate these games on their computer. Like, it's all set. How is relief pitching set in stone days prior? I mean, that's insane to me. That is like, if you're a guy like Ross Stripling, and I know like he came in relief for the Dodgers over the years and a little bit with the Blue Jays last year, and he said, he's like, well, I can come in relief, and that's fine. But still, I guarantee you during those years, he never knew when he was coming in, in relief, and
not more than a couple hours. Like, hey, like you may come in and relief tonight. Okay.
Hey, be ready. But I don't know what kind of a mindset that is. Like, hey, no matter what, on this day you're coming in after Manaya. Oh, so I'm coming in after him, or I'm going to pitch that day at some point. No, you're coming right after him. Oh, okay. Like and Manaya was dealing that day. I mean, that's the thing that bugs me the most. They had a 4-run lead going to the late innings, a fresh bullpen, Bravia, Rogers, all those guys at the time. I'm thinking, okay, they got this game, because I was still feeling good about the back end of the bullpen at that point. But then Ross Stripling comes rolling in, who had just gave up like 4 bombs a couple days before at Yankee Stadium. It was like, bold strategy. Yeah, it didn't work out for him. No.
Rob, how about Sean Jelly getting like semi-big relief minutes, and he's not a reliever in a major league bullpen?
Jelly so far, he's been Alex Wood's piggyback, so to speak. Because why, Doug? Because Wood's a lefty, Jelly's a righty. That's as simple as that. Why was Stripling coming in after Sean Manaea? Because Manaea's a lefty, Stripling's a righty. This is all in their little freaking minds where they think they're smarter than everybody, and they're really not, man. Like, they're playing a different game than everybody else. And I've watched, Moneyball teams like the A's and the Rays do it for a long time now. I've never seen shit like this. Ever.
The difference between the Giants and the Rays is the Rays can draft and develop.
Exactly. And so could the A's for a lot of years.
Yeah. And they, when their time was up, then they grew. But anyway, we need to close out here. But talking, position players, said it earlier, like Mitch Haniger is just now rehabbing with the River Cats. Michael Conforto has missed some time, but he's been hitting. I think the two guys that really stick out to me, like Thairo Estrada is making that step that we were kind of hoping he would. I mean, he's hitting 323 through the first 16 games, 3 home runs. So he's hitting for a little bit of power. 13 strikeouts, 4 walks, 3 stolen bags as well. Thairo's made that jump. And JD Davis has been hitting the hell out of the ball too. He's leading the team along with Yaz and Conforto, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. And not to mention, I got to give him credit. JD Davis has been excellent at third base, I think. Especially like he had a couple big plays today against the Marlins. Especially since David Villar has done jack shit the last like week and a half. JD Davis, like, and I swear to God, dude, we're going to start seeing some more right-handers again over the next few days. If JD Davis isn't at third, I'm going to pull every hair off my head out. Let him play.
Yeah.
Let them play.
Yeah, it's been a nice run here with JD Davis. Like they've kind of given him the ball and let him run because they face so many lefties. But even yesterday they faced a righty in Edward Cabrera. He still had 3 hits. So
Yeah.
if they go home and facing the Mets and the Cardinals, and they start seeing righties, and he's for some reason not in the lineup, yeah, I'm gonna be pissed. But fortunately, the Giants don't have any left-handed options playing third base. They have VR, Flores, and Davis. So
Yeah.
right now, Davis is. I mean, unless something absolutely insane happens, he's gonna be in there.
He has to play.
He has to play.
Yes.
And I mean, the dude's hitting like 345 right now. So yeah, I mean, I've been clearly impressed with him. I mean, if you remember in our season preview, one of my bold predictions was he was going to be traded by June, so they could clear a spot for David VR, and it could still happen.
Rob, that value's going up every day, man.
Up.
You got to strike when it's hot, dude.
Yeah,
strike when it's hot.
Yeah, but I mean, if he does get traded because he's having a great year, that would kind of suck. But he's in a contract year, so. Yeah, if the Giants are still sucking around the trade deadline, yeah, he could be out of here.
Real quick, and we talked a little bit about bats, but we haven't gone way too into it. But I kind of just want to talk defense because I think you and I were on the same page of, did this team really get better defensively? Like Brandon Crawford has not been great,
no,
which is sad because like that's his thing is his glove, and we kind of saw it last year where he's getting old, man. He can't cover as much ground. Still got a strong arm, but he can't cover as much. And I think the lack of the help of the shift is a big deal, man. He's got way more ground to cover. And then I will say this though, Mikey Yastrzemski's been better in center field. He's been positive. Tyro's been a little better than we thought too. Especially last year, he wasn't great. Davis has been good. And I will give Lamont Wade a little bit of credit. He's been better at first than I expected. Learn a new position. It's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
But Wade's been okay at first. And if you can just be okay over there, then we'll live with it. But still want to see some more games to really talk about defense too. Yeah,
unfortunately for Tyro, he's been stuck in left field a little bit lately with all their issues. Bryce Johnson was looking really good in center field too before he ran into the fence and almost killed himself. Hopefully he's healing up. But yeah, they've been so screwed up with I mean, not a ton of injuries, but they're trying to find ways to get JD Davis on the field right now, which is smart. And what has that meant? That's meant David VR is trying to learn how to play second base. And they're sticking, I feel like, one of their better infielders, and Tyro Estrada out in left field. And I don't,
because he has to hit.
And the guy I feel for in that situation is David VR, because he was coming around, early swing a good bat, but kind of since he's been playing second base, his bat's kind of gone by the wayside. But I can't help but think maybe that's because he's trying to learn a new position. He's not comfortable all the time. There's so much tinkering going on all the time. There's always so much moving parts with this team.
Well, and I think you're going to see over the next few days, because maybe he's not physically ready to play the field. I mean, he had a 2-run homer today, but Michael Conforto, he could be the DH primarily through this weekend set against the Mets. I think it's 4 games. He might DH 2 or 3 of them and sit one of them. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do defensively.
Yeah, and the other guy who I don't think has played one inning in the field yet, and he's on the aisle right now is Jock Peterson. We kept hearing about how he might get some looks at first base, and that hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what that means for Lamont Wade if they're ever on the field and healthy at the same time. And before we wrap up, I gotta ask you, do you actually know what happened to Jock Peterson's wrist? Because I don't. I've heard no reports on what happened. He was in that Dodger series, and then he got pulled out of, or he wasn't in the lineup the next day, and then they had an off day in Detroit, and then right before the first Detroit game, he's on the IL. I've heard nothing about what happened to him.
It might be a famous Phantom IL from Farhan and Co. I don't know. I don't know, because it's not like he took one off the wrist or anything, did he?
I know, and I can't help but think, and that's the conspiracy theorist in me. We got a lot of lefties coming up.
let's bring up Elliot Ramos.
Yeah, let's bring up a right-handed outfielder, and let's sit.
Who hasn't done anything either?
No
surprise.
So, yeah, right. So there's so much to unpack with this team. We could talk for 4 hours, but we won't. Don't worry.
Yeah. But this is in last thought. If Elliot Ramos is ever going to be on this club as a mainstay, he's got to perform now. It has to be now.
Yeah.
And he's getting his chances. I mean, he's got 21 at bats. I know it's not a large sample size, but keep playing him. Keep playing him, and let's get him up to 50, 60 ABs. And if he's struggling, then maybe it's time to go, you know what? His ship sailed, and yeah.
My thing is this. I don't think this team's very good. So you let Ramos, Bart, VR, you just let them go.
Go through it.
You let them play.
Go through it. Yep.
Why? Because you have nothing else going on. You don't. I don't need. I'm sorry. I think Blake Sable's a nice story, but he doesn't have.
I don't give a shit about his story.
He doesn't have a position, period. And I think if Roberto Perez didn't get hurt, or if Gary Sanchez was moving along better, he wouldn't be on this team right now. So I'd rather see Ramos on the team moving forward. Ramos, Bryce Johnson, one of those two over Blake Sable for the long haul. I want to see the young guys play. I don't need to see any more projects.
I get it. Well, thanks for joining us for episode 100 and listening to our positivity. No, I'm playing. It wouldn't be us if we came on here and bullshitted for an hour and shoved flowers up your ass. So
they're 6-11, and they've played one team that's over 500 currently, and that's the Marlins at 10-9. The LA Dodgers are 9-10. The Tigers are 7-10. The Royals are 4-13. The White Sox are 7-12. They haven't played any good teams yet. No. I mean, I'll say the Dodgers are a good team, but the Giants are.
They'll be fine. But
the Giants are 6-11. They really haven't played anybody.
Yeah. So we're gonna, we're through 17 games now. Rob and I will definitely. We're not going to be taking as long as a break as we just did. We just wanted to have some games go through, but hoping to be back next week, and we'll kind of dive back into, what we've seen in the last week. The podcast, like you guys know, we're not going to break down every game or series and stuff like that. We kind of see things from a general perspective. But maybe the next couple episodes, we kind of need to just, go a week and see this is what we've seen in the last week. This is what we think. So we might do a little bit of, roster assessments over the next couple episodes, stuff like that, and see what this team needs to do.
It's always changing. So, yeah.
So we want to thank everyone. We want to thank Believe. We want to thank Giants Chatter. Thank our bros in Giants Chatter, our fellow admin. And of course, all our listeners. We're not some big time syndicated podcast, but we do have a good little following that we're very appreciative of. We have people that listen to every episode. Some that have listened from episode 1 all the way through 100. So thank you very much. We hope we entertain you. And even though, we're dumb and wrong sometimes, you stick with us. And, we just love to come on here and talk about our favorite baseball team. And so we're thankful for that and thankful for the platform. And,
yes,
we'll see you on episode 101. So what were you going to say? You were going to say something. Go for it.
I was just going to say, I just hope we're a little more upbeat and positive for episode 101.
I hope so too.
Because
maybe 11 and 11.
Yeah, because seeing as how this was episode 100 and we're so down on everything, it's kind of fitting considering how we both are. But yeah, we don't like being upset. We don't like we don't enjoy it. No.
So for Say Hey Doug and Say Hey Rob and all 100 episodes of Say Hey Podcast, thank you. And until next time, go Giants.
Go Giants. Don't get swept.
Say hey, say who, say Willie, say hey, say who, swinging at the plate, say hey, say who, say Willie, that Giants kid is great.